Hello everyone, I am continuing my reading 12 Rules for Life from Jordan B. Peterson. And today we are in Rule 5 and 6. Yesterday I was supposed to record Rule 5, but it was too late and I fell asleep. It was a very long read and I had a full day. So today I am doing Rule 5 and 6 together, and Rule 6 is quite short, so that works fine. And Rule 5 is, I'm checking the English translation, do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. So this chapter is interesting for people who have children. There is a lot of direction about how to raise children, how to make sure that children are raised in a way that they are able to be a useful part of society. So the main purpose of parenting is to raise children that will serve and be a good member of the society. And that being a good member of the society happens through understanding the norms, understanding what is right to do, what is not to do, knowing your borders, the borders not to cross, because the children test the borders. And as a parent, he's suggesting, as a parent, you need to always make the borders very clear. And sometimes this making clear always requires you to assert yourself. It requires to show your authority. And sometimes it requires you to use a little bit of aggression, a tiny bit of aggression, violence, to show that you are serious and there is a problem and there are consequences. He's saying you need to show this authority and this tiny violence, because if you don't show it in your loving home, then the life will show it in a non-loving way. So that I found really important lesson. And for me, I took notes. I don't have a child, but I feel I am partially a child. Inside of myself there's a child, and I'm managing my adult versus child all the time. So I am parenting my own child inside of myself. And the reason I started reading this book is that I realized, for me, freedom and creativity are very important. But I cannot experience freedom and creativity if I am constantly running behind projects, that I'm not getting work done, and I have to manage the stress. I don't have time for being creative, and this lack makes me even more stressed. So to be able to create spaces for feeling free and being creative, I need structure. I need things to move on. I need to fulfill my commitments. And here in the book he is also mentioning about this freedom, that some parents are not allowing themselves to say no or to give lessons to their children to assert themselves and to show authority, because they're afraid to harm the children, they're afraid to scar the children, create traumas, and also limit their creativity, because he is criticizing a bit this idea of children are wonderful and they have all the creativity of the world and they are like magic and we should allow them to be. He's saying you cannot allow them to be, because in essence he's talking about the violence essence of humans, actually all the animal world, and that's the same for children as well. They use violence with each other but also with you, because they see how far they can go. So limiting violence requires work, and they need to be part of the society, so they should already learn norms, rules, and organization and structure. So that's why you can actually create freedom for them through setting structures for them. So it goes about how to, like, having routines, but at the same time what is allowed and what is not allowed. So when you have a structure, when you have the borders, then between these borders you can be free. But if you don't have borders, then it's a complete chaos. So that I took for myself, and that was the reason I'm reading this book anyway. So he's talking about the parents' fear of not using power, authority, and competence. And that's something I took note for myself to look into. Okay, so how do I do it? Where am I able to show my own power, competence, and authority when I need to assert my own limits, to tell others who are working with me, who are in relation with me, to say, no, that's the border you cannot cross. So actually, this is another learning that I am realizing, that this standing up, asserting, and using power, authority, and competence is an interesting thing to explore for me. And another point that I took from this is that this idea of, well, the natural state of things is violence, is chaos, violence. And what is unusual, what requires work, is peace. To expect peace happen by itself is stupidity. You have to work at it. And you work at it by creating orders and structures. So a society is nothing but an agreement, a set of structure, so that we make sure violence doesn't happen. We make sure the rights of other people are not abused and taken away. And that creating these structures so that we can feel free, so that we can have our creativity, so that we can have peace, is important. So that was for me the chapter, do not let, rule 5, do not let your children do anything that makes you dislike them. And coming to rule 6, set your house in perfect order before you criticize the world. To tell the truth, I was a bit disappointed with this chapter, because I was expecting this chapter to really tell me, tidy your house. I mean, I have written this chapter in my mind and how it should look like and what should it say. And I was expecting to read this. I was expecting him to say, okay, the way you think actually shows itself in the environment you live. If you want to structure your life, start from really structuring your house, tidy your mess, throw your rubbish, make a cleaning routine, and so on and so forth. No, it's not about really this cleaning your house. It's about dealing with your own life first before you go out and talk about the injustice of the world and things that you want to change in the world. Before you go there, take care of your own life. And he's giving lots of examples from, again, literature and people who have experienced also difficulty in their lives, how they could make changes. So to find meaning in life, actually the meaning is created. And this meaning is created in a way that you work with your own troubles, you work with your own difficulties and challenges, and you bring it a bit, you resolve it a bit, you bring it forward, you make your life a bit better bit by bit. It sounds very similar while I'm telling you to one of the previous chapters where he was talking about compare yourself with who you were the day before. It's the same story. It's about how we should first really take care of ourselves, resolve our own life and our own problems. He's talking about actually in the beginning, like how many people, all the mass shootings and so on, coming from the individual, and how abuse, like child abuse and so on, usually is done by people who were abused themselves. So whatever you carry with you, usually you impact the world with what you have in yourself. So whatever you have in yourself, and you will have probably some suffering that will never go away, but some of it can be worked with. So rather than putting your suffering in the world and causing more suffering, what you can do is you can reduce it, transform it, work with it, expand yourself, grow, so that you will not harm the world, but actually through you changing, you can influence the world in a positive way. So that's why you start with yourself. That was chapter lesson 5. Sorry, I always say chapter. Lesson 5 and 6. And tomorrow we are going to talk about lesson 7 of, again, my lesson, rule. We talked about rule 5 and 6, and tomorrow we are going to talk about rule 7 of 12 rules for life. Take care of yourself and talk to you tomorrow.